Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 134. I am back from Creatrix. Did you miss me? No, you didn't, because I did not skip any episodes. I just realized it feels as though I haven't recorded in a really long time because I haven't. But yeah, I planned ahead. Go me. Thanks yesterday, me. So, but because my head, my heart, and my body are full of Creatrix, this episode is about Creatrix. And it's also because, I'm a preachy bastard. And I want to have something for you to take away other than, I'm glad you had a nice time, Rachel. I'll be giving you some things that I have learned. And if you are interested in in-person events, such as this, maybe some little nuggets here and there on best practices. First things first, this was the second time I've run this retreat. The first time was last year. I loved it so much. It was a very ambitious first experiment. I had not one but two houses. I rented two houses on Edisto Island in South Carolina with two different tiers to choose from so that there were a variety of price points. So that's the first thing that I cut this year. It totally worked. It did work, but it was very complicated. There was a lot of going back and forth between the two houses. They were in the same neighborhood, but it was still like a 10-minute bike ride. And it was just a lot of moving parts. So this year I found a wonderful house that had like 13 beds in it. And I sell places by the bed because ain't nobody looking to be sharing a bed. All right. We're too old for that. And the second thing that made a huge difference this year is I stayed in the house with my guests. And that was the overwhelming feedback from last year that almost everyone said was that we loved this, thank you. It would have been nice to see you more, because I was staying probably 10 minutes away at my mom's house. And I thought that this was going to be necessary because I'm such an introvert. And I would need to recharge my cup each day so that I could continue delivering the experience. But what ended up happening was I spent a lot of time in the car going back and forth from my mom's house to the guest accommodations. And that kind of wore me out. And I didn't really get the one-on-one time with them that I wanted. So I decided this year I'm going to stay in the house and I will deal with it, and I'll just give myself what I need in terms of my introversion and solitude. And I did. So here's my first piece of advice for anyone who wants to run a retreat. Get a great house. The accommodation matters so much. And I would not have even considered staying in the house with my guests on the first year. One, because I was afraid that I'd get too tired and need to be alone too much. And two, I didn't feel, there was no room in the budget for me to not sell that room. So I needed the income the first year from a room that would have been taken up by me. I didn't this year. So I gave myself one of the 13 beds and I had 12 to sell. I did not sell out this year. And it didn't matter. I sold 10 out of the 12 places, which meant 10 souls either got on a plane or got in their car or got on a train to come all the way to South Carolina. And that was spectacular. And, running a retreat is a big risk because you never know if it's going to sell. You have to put down the deposits. You've got to book the accommodation. You've got to put deposits down on the people that you're going to need to hire to help you execute this. And then, it might not sell. And that's a risk. So my second piece of advice is, if it didn't sell, can you handle that outcome? And what I had decided for myself this year is that if it doesn't sell this year, I will just invite a bunch of friends to pitch in, and we'll just have like a 5-night vacation, whoever can come, or some family members that I don't have. So that was my emergency contingency plan. Well, I'll still use the house and we'll just have this time set aside. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. I really didn't want to. I know like 5-night vacation sounds nice, but I didn't want a vacation. I wanted to lead Creatrix. And luckily, that is what I got to do. The third piece of advice I have for anyone that wants to run a retreat or an in-person event is to have excellent support. And I actually recorded a decompression after the first Creatrix where I gave advice on how I created it, because I was asked for that podcast by one of the attendees, and the gremlins that I met along the way and how I dealt with them. So I'm going to put a link to that episode as well in the show notes. That was episode 82, Creating Creatrix and the gremlins that I met along the way. And the biggest piece of advice from that episode is to learn from other people. Like, ask people who have gone there before you, which is what I did. And this year, I had gone before me. So I had 1 year of experience to rely on, and having the right support is imperative. I brought the same kitchen witch, artist Lexa Walsh, a very accomplished artist and also a culinary genius who seems to be able to handle any dietary restriction with ease and without stress. So I brought Lexa back again. And of course, I have Manflesh here to help me in his truck if we needed it, which we did, to help bring all the food and things down from where we live in the Charleston area to Edisto Island. But in a stroke of utter genius, I brought a support for myself, which was the excellent Kim Malone. Kim, you the real MVP. Kim acted as my second brain and was so good at her job that after she left the day before yesterday, someone asked me a hard question, and I looked around for Kim. I'm like, oh no, the retreat's done and Kim's gone home. I'm going to have to answer this question by myself. Meh. And one of the most wonderful things about this person isn't just her capacity to do things and her skill in organization, but that she can mind herself. She minds herself. She minds her energy. She voices her needs. She has strong boundaries. And you need to be able to rely on that. And I got that this year, and it changed everything. Okay, now I'm going to stop giving advice for a second because I just want to thank those who came. So I'm just going to speak directly to Kim, Angel, Sid, Heather, Fallon, Vix, Taiba, G, Des, and Shannon. Thank you for coming all this way for an experience that, despite my best efforts, was still not very clearly defined. It was a common statement last year as well as this year, was not really sure what we're doing. I just know that I'm up for it. And that is the good energy. So the best part about this house that we stayed in my opinion, was that it had a huge back porch screened in. You could see the marsh, you could see the ocean, you could even hear the ocean. And there was a little private dock where you could walk down the little boardwalk and sit and splash around in the plankton. And that very first night, before we'd even sat down and really gathered together, a full moon rose over the ocean, and it was blood red. And it was that kind of where Shannon was saying, what is that? What's that glowing? Oh my God, it's the moon. It's the moon. So I ran down to the dock so that I could see it coming up over the water, and then got to show them that, guess what? There's also bioluminescent plankton in these waters. And the sheer delight and surprise and the like magic of these things on the very first night really set the tone. And everyone was just so up for being surprised, delighted. And we were. I was. We had a witch class 3 of the 4 days. And I extended it because that was more feedback that I had gotten after the first year, was that 2 hours was nice, but it wasn't quite enough. So I extended that to 2.5 hours of witch class every day. And the first year I was pretty nervous because I don't have as much experience teaching witchery, for lack of a better word, that I do the other things that I teach. But it was such a joy to like plan out what to do and to just gather on this huge porch in the morning heat and talk about energy and practice tasting it, and just to be able to share the things that I've collected over my lifetime was incredible for me. Also, I don't know if y'all have ever chanted with 10 other people, but it's wildly effective. I just wanted to try it like as an opening exercise on the last day. And by the time we got halfway around the circle, oh my God, you could feel it. It was electric. It was vibrating. So I tell you, I'm going to be doing that again. Like, it's not an accident that people pray in unison in a church or sing songs together. And we've all sang songs in big groups. But to do it in a small, contained group who'd already bonded with each other for nearly a week, geez, I could cry just telling you about it. I also want to give a shout out to the guest artists and teachers that came and lent their expertise and shared their gifts with us. Janice, who taught us theater. Satya, who drove all the way down from Charlotte and all the way back up to teach us belly dance. My girl Kelly Jean, amazing yoga instructor, and not like the boring yoga, like really good shit. And of course, Max Cooper, who came down from Asheville, and me and him turned the upstairs little sitting area into a photo studio. So this was something that I did add this year from last year, was a portrait session, because we'd been doing so much work. So we did so much shadow work together and talked about these aspects of ourselves that usually remain covered up. And I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity to personify those aspects and have a portrait made of them. So that's what we did on the very last night. And it was so much fun. I knew the photos would be baller because Max is the best. But there's just something about the magic of being in the room and watching it all happening, and being told to go stand in the corner with the strobe. It's just awesome. And then it gives people something other than the pictures that they just take with their phones to keep, like a little memento. So I'm really happy that I added that. Would absolutely add it again. But honestly, one of the best parts about an experience like this is something that you like as the leader, have no control over, which is watching friendships form and watching connections from a bunch of people who have mostly never met before coming together, and then a few days later, it's a room full of friends who love each other. One of my favorite photos I just took on the porch on the last day, and Angel's like laying on one of the couches on his phone, and G is like lounging next to him, like on his leg on her phone, and Heather's just sort of walking by, and they're all just taking a moment to say I don't even know what they were talking about, but it was just that kind of like easy intimacy that usually happens over knowing someone for a really long time, but it had only been a few days. That's magic. I'm going to put a link to the chant. I was just listening back to this episode and I'll just share the chant that I used. It's very simple. And so I found a version of it on Spotify. I'll put a link to that in the show notes for anyone who's like, what fucking chant are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. It's one that my coven used to use, 100 years ago in the early 2000s. I will also link to the guest artists, starting with Lexa. Janice does not do the socials, so I can't link anything to her, but she is local and she teaches at College of Charleston. And I'll also link to Satya and Kelly Jean here in Charleston and Max Cooper based out of Asheville. So if you want to find any of these folks and hire them for their own events, I'm also going to put a link to Kim Malone, because if you need someone baller to support you or to be an extra brain, and she also does excellent VA work, by the way, I've hired her for that as well. I'm going to put a link to that too, to her. You should go give her money to make your life better. I know that technically I'm a solopreneur, but there's no way I could do the things that I do without the people that I work with and without the support of my partner, Manflesh, or my parents, like my mom, being right there down the road and sure, Alexa can stay here. We loved having her last year. And awesome. Thank you. So for anyone who is an island and you're thinking, I'd like to do an in-person event, you got to swim off that island. You need people. You need help so that you can do what you do best and let someone else do things that you don't do best and you know it. Also, and this is my last piece of advice, if you go to the beach, fucking bring bug spray. Those little bastards are lawless. There was one tiny bottle of bug spray that Fallon brought, and then Shannon had a bottle of peppermint essential oil. So I put that all over me. And then I was very cold, which was weird on a 95-degree day to be cold. But you're like, why is my body minty? Well, the bugs stopped biting me after that, but then I was like a peppermint stick on a beach. It was very odd. But I'm looking at the time. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to say thank you again to my Trixies. Thank you, witches. Thank you for taking care of each other. Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for letting me take care of you. I will never forget it. Until next time, my friends, I am going to just thank you for listening. I know it was mostly me gushing about something that I just experienced, so I appreciate you listening to me gush about that. If you have requests for future episodes, I would really love to hear them. You can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast, and indeed my brain itself, are powered by Patreon. I couldn't do what I do without them, without my patrons. So thank you so much for believing in me, for trusting me, and for standing with me. Thank you. So go out there and do some epic shit. Or at least go get bored so that you have space in your brain to think about what epic shit you might want to do. And don't go back to sleep.